This is lecture 7. I call it dating methods, methods by which scientists and historians can apply some chronological date to artifacts. So this requires an interdisciplinary approach, doesn't it? Frankly, I don't understand the scientific method used in some of these dating methods, but as an historian, we have to borrow from other disciplines. The first thing I'm going to mention here, and you can see examples of it here that we supply for you, is stratigraphy. You know that the Earth is in layers, and accumulated layers often contain artifacts of some sort or the other. These accumulated layers are generally laid down in chronological order. That is, top layers are the youngest, deeper layers are older, unless there's some event that overturns this order, like an earthquake, for instance. So the younger layers are near the surface, the older layers lie deeper. This allows us to date the artifacts that are found in these distinct layers. You guys have seen archaeological digs. These are called tells, T-E-L-L-S, where archaeologists and his team will dig down into the earth, chipping and chipping away, locating ancient human artifacts. So stratigraphy, layers, strata of the earth. A second method used for dating, and I think we mentioned it already, is dendrochronology. This is dating by tree rings. These tree rings are obviously observable when you cut the tree. Scientists can measure not only the age of the tree by examining the growth of these rings, but they can also draw some conclusions about past climate and environmental conditions by looking at these rings. So we have fluctuations in climate, rain or drought, insects, infestation, flooding, fire, just a variety of factors that could account for either slow growth or rapid growth of a tree. You guys have probably heard of carbon-14 dating. This is fairly simple, actually. All living things have carbon, and the carbon-14 isotope deteriorates at a pace that can be measured by a scientist. So we can establish a pretty good estimation of the age of artifacts that are organic, that once were alive, whether it's a bone or a piece of firewood, or the food in the belly of that baby mammoth that I talked about earlier. Another method is called Varves, V-A-R-V-E-S. This is the accumulated layers of sediment that's laid down on lake beds or at the edge of glaciers. These sediments harden and they contain artifacts in the various strata. It was Varves that first allowed the melting of the ice sheets at the end of the last ice age to be dated with some precision. Another method, thermoluminescence. This allows scientists to date pottery. And pottery, of course, is a common technological object that we find in ancient civilizations. Pottery, of course, is essential for storage of food, for the serving of food, and has many uses. So thermoluminescence allows us to date pottery. Now, historians use a much less precise method of dating. The 3 ages system is quite common, the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age. Again, as we move forward in time, depending on location, you find advancements in technology, tools, and weapons. Historians also use Paleolithic and Neolithic, and we're going to talk about this in more detail. Paleo means old, it's Latin. Lithic means stone. Neo is new, lithic again, stone. So we have old Stone Age and the new Stone Age. What I'm going to say about it here briefly is Paleolithic is where mankind has spent most of his life here on this planet. Small nomadic groups of people wandering to and fro, trying to find food and water, shelter, protection. Neolithic, I want you to associate with farming, with settled agriculture, booming populations. Neolithic begins, a good round figure, about 10,000 years ago. in what we call the Fertile Crescent, that land between the rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, in modern-day Iraq and southern Turkey, Syria, Palestine, the Nile River Valley. And I want to say one more thing here about dating with regard to historians. The old dating system, BC and AD, are not used anymore in the social sciences, and you should be aware of this. BC, of course, refers to before Christ. That's now called BCE, before the Common Era. AD, of course, was the Latin Anno Domini, in the year of the Lord. This is now referred to as CE, or simply Common Era. This still points to the same pivot point in history, but the religious aspect has been deleted from it. Issues of time are difficult for us to comprehend sometimes. There was I believe he was an Irishman. His name was James Ussher, a man of the church, and I think he sort of had a natural curiosity about the world. He actually calculated the age of the earth and came up with about 4004 BCE for the age of the earth, which of course is quite ludicrous. But nevertheless, it's interesting to think about his method. Ussher looked at the generations of the Bible, and you guys have all seen this in Genesis, where you have page or paragraph after paragraph where so-and-so begot, so-and-so begot, so-and-so begot, so-and-so begot. Ussher added up all these generations, applied an age to them, and then added all that up and came up with 4004 BCE. This was considered an authoritative, reasonable, educated estimation of the age of the earth. We know that it seems quite silly. Now, the problem, of course, is that as human beings, we have a difficult time imagining geologic time. It's simply too long for us to get our heads around. We can imagine a long human life at 80 or 90 years. We can imagine a century, maybe more than a century, but when we start talking about thousands of years, millions of years, and then billions of years, we can't really get our heads around that. So it's very difficult to grasp the sheer duration of the Earth's existence, and in the very, very, very brief period of time that humanity has actually been on this planet. So I'm going to stop there, and thank you for your attention.